Well, that's going to be on the policy environment for blockchain innovation and adoption. When we're going to be talking about how governments can support blockchain innovation adoption in small and medium enterprises, blockchain fuel government tech developments and views in public sector use of blockchain, assessing the development of blockchain over the past 12 months, and delving into some of the specific challenges to implementation adoption, the emerging policy responses and best practices identified in the public blockchain initiatives across the world, investigating use of blockchain in specific policy areas, highlighting the work that the Asian countries and the stakeholders are doing in this regard. Well, we have with us PETERIS ZILGALVIS, the head of unit Digital Innovation and the Blockchain European Commission, who's joining us. Mr. ZILGALVIS is the head of unit for the Digital Innovation and Blockchain in the Digital Single Market Directorate in DG Connect and is the co-chair of the European Commission FinTech Task Force. So firstly, thank you so much, Mr. ZILGALVIS, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation to speak to you today at the World Blockchain Summit Asia. It's a pleasure, and I've had an interest in listening to some of the previous presentations. I'm happy to tell you a little bit right now about the perspective, policies, and vision of the European Commission for blockchain, which is a technology that we're very enthusiastic about. I'll start with the overall vision. The overarching vision is one of the digital transformation going hand in hand with the EU Green Deal. So for us, the green transition addressing climate change is enabled by and should also be part of the digital transformation. A part of this, along with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 5G, obviously in international context because these are international technologies that can work across borders, and we want to, is blockchain. One initiative that we have in order to support the technologies is an artificial intelligence and blockchain fund, which can be artificial intelligence and blockchain together or either of the technologies. This is 100 million euro this year, going up to 400 million euro in the next several years, aiming to help early stage startups and scale-ups in Europe. Looking more broadly, we have an EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, which is available for all of you online and including the physical workshops when they start again. And if you can make it to Europe, you can find this online. The EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, we could say it's the knowledge. And so it's also global knowledge. We're interacting with big companies, startups, governments across the world. There's a whole set of workshops that have already taken place that are online in video form. Also reports on innovation and blockchain, e-identity and blockchain, cybersecurity and blockchain, e-health and blockchain. This brings me to an upcoming online workshop in September, which will be on e-health, electronic health, and blockchain, and seeing how the technologies can work together. Also, a workshop will be coming up in the next month after that on central bank digital currencies and blockchain. So again, I encourage you for these online workshops, people can join from anywhere, from Asia, from anywhere in the world. There's also a mapping of blockchain initiatives. If your initiative isn't there, we'd be happy to hear about it, and an online community. Then what we're doing more with infrastructure and politically, we have a European blockchain partnership of 29 countries, all 27 EU member states, plus Norway and Liechtenstein, signed a ministerial level declaration aiming to develop a European blockchain services infrastructure. This is where we think we, as the public sector, can make a big push to have a sustainable, privacy-respecting, scalable blockchain launched for cross-border public services in areas like RegTech, self-sovereign identity, audit document certification, and also upcoming use cases like small and medium enterprise bonds on the blockchain. This is not piloting, this is deployment. we're moving already towards the end of this year and early next year to deploying the first use cases and aiming to deploy all of them in the near term. So again, not something for the far future. We've had discussions quite intensively also with countries like Canada and Japan on collaboration on this. So this is also an international project. Obviously, some of the public services will remain in an EU context because they are there for EU citizens and EU member states, but also on areas like diplomas, especially, there's an international context, a framework that can be enabled for our students to be able to travel across borders and to demonstrate their qualifications easily and seamlessly. Further, we're looking at the legal framework, which obviously also has an international context because things like tokenization and smart contracts don't and shouldn't stop at borders. In some contexts they may, but we want to have as much as possible a non-fragmented digital single market between all of our countries, and then also very productive and mutually beneficial cooperation globally. So on tokenization, crypto assets, we had a public consultation on them. We moved very, I wouldn't say slowly, we've been looking at blockchain since about 2012, 2013, but did not rush in to regulate. We watched how the market developed. I mentioned using the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, and also watched how the technology developed, talking with the community. The community was demanding legal clarity, so this public consultation took place, and now it is expected that the Commission will propose a regulatory initiative in the third quarter of this year in the autumn. I have to underline that we are a political institution led by politicians, so it's those politicians, the commissioners, who would adopt the proposal, but something that they may adopt is in preparation from us, from the civil servants. Open right now, and also which you can answer to from other parts of the world, is a public consultation on the Digital Services Act. The Digital Services Act covers platforms who may be offering services, collaborating in the European Union, and a part is on smart contracts. So I do need to underline, in a lot of ways, we're technology neutral. Don't have a regulation on servers or transistors, and we won't have a regulation on blockchain or a regulation on IoT. But where we can have a pro-innovation impact, for instance, on the beneficial use of tokens like investment tokens or utility tokens, then we look at these applications, not tying them forever to one technology, because the technology will advance. Smart contracts is another example, but this is the way that we try to keep pace with the new technologies while at the same time being future-proofed, that we're not stuck in a certain technological development moment. So looking again at some of our international engagement, we're in the Governmental Advisory Board of the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications, which is an international association bringing together blockchain stakeholders, companies, and users of blockchain. And we would encourage Asian companies to join that as well. There's other governments like Canada, there's development organizations like the World Bank participating there. So we're going to have some meetings of the Governmental Advisory Board this autumn. Along with this international association and the Blockchain Observatory and Forum, we co-organized a global blockchain congress in Malaga, which was in Spain, a congress, also global, not a summit, but a congress called Convergence. And then this is one of the several things I would also underline. I started by saying that for us, digital transformation goes hand in hand with the green transformation, but also we look to have very much of a convergence of the stack of the technologies. So artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, the data that AI needs, that IoT provides, perhaps being managed by blockchain. This is something that we have very much as an ambition for our own blockchain services infrastructure, the public sector one. And then we want to create a policy and legal environment that also very decentralized blockchains or other types of blockchains can use to flourish in the European Union. And then a little bit finishing on a philosophical note, we are very excited about the decentralization component of blockchain, the opportunities that it offers there. And I see it as a spectrum. There's probably two extremes which you may never reach, of something being completely centralized and something being completely decentralized. For public sector, our European blockchain services infrastructure will have nodes in each of these 29 countries we mentioned, probably nodes in multiple ministries in many countries. And then we see it going down to the municipal level, the city level, the regional level, and then possibly having quite a large number of validating nodes in the network, and then it being open to every citizen who would be receiving public services in Europe, but not as a validating node to the citizens. So reflecting our multi-level governance, and something that you could say is quite decentralized, but not completely decentralized. And then if you look at the rest of the economy, there we would very much like to, with a legal framework that encourages decentralization while not throwing consumer protection or investor protection out the window, that makes it possible for a sustainable development of blockchain to take place in the European Union. And obviously this is the subject for discussions with many of our partners. I can possibly finish almost by putting an emphasis on skills, on research. This is a technology. We think it needs to get better. Skills, we have to make sure that the technology is inclusive, both in terms of job opportunities for the high level, digitally skilled, but then also you have the digital skills in society to use an e-government application. And obviously cybersecurity is important too. You have a high level of cybersecurity, but then on the other hand, you have to make sure that ordinary citizens or ordinary workers, we're, I think, facing a great hack of Twitter, evidently, as I woke up on my side of the world this morning to see, and I'm a Twitter user as well at the ZILGALVIS, where you can find me, and I don't think I've been hacked, but this shows up the necessity for cybersecurity in all technologies of our new digital economy, as I mentioned, also in the Green Deal. So my final words are that there is a very great interest in international collaboration, also with Asia, or maybe even mainly for Asia. My two big trips of last autumn, almost before we shut down, some half year before we shut down, traveling for work, more to South Korea and Japan, to the FinSum Summit in Tokyo, and then also in South Korea to the Korean Blockchain Week. I had planned, and we had planned to go to Asia, to other countries of the region as well, but that's for a little bit the more distant future. And with that, I'm happy to finish my fireside chat talk and to try to take a look to see if there are any questions. Okay, am I allowed to answer the questions?
Yes, there is one. PETERIS, it's coming from Renee, and she's saying that I heard you mention blockchain certification of graduation certificates in an internationally recognized manner. Can you please elaborate more on that so that I can know how it is implemented in the EU? She's giving her greetings from Malaysia.
Very good. Well, this is right now one of the use cases of the EU blockchain services infrastructure. There's a working group of mostly the 29 different countries, along with the European Commission, working on that. We'll have more information online soon. We're also humble people. We think we're doing a lot, but we want to make sure that this works between our 29 countries before we start expanding further. but we had some press releases, some information out on it recently, and we'll be producing more information, and also we'll be having a testing facility going live before going fully into production. So please keep following it as we have hopefully some successes in the next months and in the next year. We'll have even more serious discussions on seeing how we can open this up further to other countries, international students, obviously international students who want to come to study in Europe or who finished in Europe and are going somewhere else will have access to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, PETERIS. I was just seeing if there are any more further questions, but looks like the audience is very happy with your entire presentation. And thank you so much for your valuable time today at the World Blockchain Summit.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great event. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.